you are a B2B service-based business owner and you are looking to gain more clients, create more impact and more revenue in your business, tune in to Amplify Your Marketing Message with Christine Campbell Rapin. Every week, we're going to take you through how to build an audience of buyers, mastering your marketing message, and making offers. One of the biggest challenges every single human on the planet faces and struggles with is consistency. So often the issue of why we don't have the business we want is not a knowledge gap, it's that we're not applying what we know consistently. Well, my friends, if you are struggling with I'm the problem, it's me. When it comes to consistency, this episode is for you. Welcome back, everybody, to Amplify Your Marketing Message. I am your host, Christine Campbell Rapin, and I am here to help you break through the disconnect between I want to do this predictably and I actually do follow through. So let's talk about the first elephant in the room. The truth is that consistency, first and foremost, is a choice. And I know that that's not going to be really popular. And right now you might be thinking, oh, I got to hang up. I can't listen to this episode. Well, don't do that. Hold on to your knickers for a second. What I mean is that consistency is a choice to really connect to your vision. The vision is the key to actually living consistently. And I think so often we don't have a big enough vision. And I see that with people who come to work with us. I know I've had moments in my own business journey where I've stood on a crossroad and it's like, Peter Pan, what do I want to do when I grow up? So if it's you, I see you. But a big vision is important because it has to be the thing that challenges you to follow through on who you said you wanted to be, to really owning the identity of somebody who follows through, stays in trust, and honors their own personal commitments. Because consistency is a personal commitment. It's not something that you get put upon. It's something, again, you choose to do. So I want to go back to vision. What I tell my clients is that the vision has to be so big and so meaningful to you that it pulls you past convenience factor. And that's why so many people struggle with consistency, because their vision isn't meaningful enough to manage through tough moments, hard days, setbacks, and adversity. And so one of the very first things that I take every client through that joins into our programming and is there to help them build client growth comes down to a visualize your future document. If you're curious about this document, send me an email, hello@ChristineCampbellRapin.com, and say, I want to know this visualize your future document. I'll give you a sneak peek for what it's like to be a client with us. But in this document, it asks 10 very compelling personal questions. What do you want your life to look like? What does it embody? What does it feel like? What do you hope for? What does it include? What does it not include? Because you have to paint this picture that you think, wow, that's awesome. I want that. And these 10 questions that I take my clients through in this document, in this vision piece, is actually something very personal to me. 10 years ago plus, I had my life detonated. And in that moment, I was living in the world of corporate. I was what I thought and had been in my performance reviews, a top performer. And I thought that being a top performer would, to a high degree, ensure job stability. But if you're reading the headlines in 10 years, not much has changed. Job stability is an illusion unless you are choosing to become an entrepreneur and you choose through consistency to build your own stability and to build your own paycheck and to decide the size of it, the frequency of it, and really live this life that feels like what I call oxygen. But I was standing on the crossroads of a corporate career, which I thought was just epic, on the path that I would just continue on until I ran into HR and my boss in a place they should not have been unless they were there to dramatically change my life. And dramatically change my life they did. They informed me, much to my surprise, that my services were no longer needed. And I rallied, railed, and really had a bit of meltdown, truthfully, because I couldn't see the inputs equaling the outputs. The performance reviews were there. The feedback had been great. It was well liked by my clients. I created great results for the territory. I built millions of dollars of revenue for this company. But at the end of the day, I was out the door. And it took the wind out of my sails. I think perhaps you can relate to a moment in your own life where that's what happened to you. But in that moment, I started to realize that while the ship had sailed, that job stability in that organization was no longer in the cards. I had to play the cards I was dealt. And I thought to myself, what do I want to be next? And when your identity is very tied to your job title and to your career, it can be a real untethering. And for me, it was absolutely that. And I asked myself and wrote down these 10 questions. Because I was no longer a job title. I was no longer my salary band. I was no longer a leader of people formally. And all the things that I thought gave me value in the marketplace, and I felt compelled to show up every day in my business and in my career to do excellent work, had shifted. And it was through this vision piece that I got really clear of what I wanted to create. I couldn't name it. And here's how I want you to think about this. A beautiful gift and opportunity will not come in the shape, form, timeline that you anticipate. It will not come with a ribbon or a bow, and you still need to be able to decide to move. Fast forward a couple of years, and I realized my path was an entrepreneurial one, because that really gave me the freedom to create my own predictability. And that's what I was, in the end, really desiring. And so I created this compelling vision. What will it look like to run my own business? What did I want it to be? What did I envision who I would serve? And all these things that really were very fuzzy at the time. But I was clear on how it would feel and what I was non-negotiable around. And I just said, I'll put it out there and trust that opportunity is going to work its way towards me because I was in movement. And a random conversation through a platform called LinkedIn brought that opportunity to me. Somebody in my network that I hadn't spoken to in 10 years had reached out to me to say, when we last met, you always struck me as being very entrepreneurial. And I have a wild idea that you probably didn't get out of bed to talk about today, but I think could be something that would intrigue you, you would be great at, and it could create you additional income. Would you be open to a conversation? And I was curious, and I wanted the things that it could offer. And so I had a conversation, and that was a spark on this journey that required I be disciplined. That journey evolved into a very much bigger story. That was just a stepping stone. But eventually I built a vision using these 10 questions, which is why I give it to every client I serve, that says you have to have a vision that is going to move you forward well past the point of convenience. Because having what you want, the result, when the result is a gap between your current reality and the other side, you have to have a way to bridge it. And the way you bridge this gap is disciplined action. So I want to give you a couple of tips around building this vision, because this vision piece is the key. If your vision is weak, if your vision is somebody else's, you will quit. And what it's saying is you're quitting on something that isn't pulling you past convenience. And so often I say to people when they're exploring our services, especially if they want to become a private client, and I only take 10 private clients a year, I always say, you have to convince me that your vision is so big, so compelling that you won't quit when it's challenging, that you won't quit when it's inconvenient, that you won't quit when a momentary disruption, disappointment, or heartbreak takes the wind out of your sails. And if those moments happen, because they will, it's okay to phone me and say, I have the wind taken out of me. And I'm here as your mentor to help you, remind you of the vision, remind you of the commitment and that connection to what will pull you and get you back into motion. So if that's fair, my peeps, I want to take you through this piece. The first piece of this puzzle with vision is that it has to be yours. And I mean, that seems like it's so basic, but I got to tell you, most people live somebody else's life. You're living the expectations of your parents. You're living the expectations of your partner. You're living the expectations of your boss. You're living the expectations of your bestie. You're living the expectations of so many past voices that have shaped who you are into this moment. Well, I want to give you a permission slip. I want you to make this vision your own. And what I want you to do as you step into this is really get clear to the want. Everything in motion, everything in momentum comes down to drive, desire, and that is distilled into want. So what is the life you want? Not just the goal, but the lived experience of the outcome. I want you to paint it in Technicolor. What does it feel like? What are you doing? Who's with you? I want you to walk through this lived experience over and over and over again. So much that this vision seems as tangible to you as your lived current reality. Because here's the kicker of science, your brain doesn't know the difference between what is real and what you are imagining. And so we're going to gamify our own science, our own biology, and say, see the alternate where I can have what I want. And I think what's so fascinating in what the work I do as a business mentor is so often I watch the moment of breakthrough in this piece, where finally the walls come down, finally the armor is shed, and there's this very vulnerable human in front of me, and who's like, who am I to dream so big? Who am I to want what I want? And it is my honor, it is my privilege to say, let me introduce you to you. You get to have a vision you pursue. And consistency gets a whole heck of a lot easier when you be true to yourself and when you prioritize your own vision. And I know that seems like this wild idea. And trust me, I get a lot of controversy, a lot of hate, and a lot of people who don't buy into this. My clients do. And my clients are happier. I do. And I have a life that feels like oxygen. So my invitation for you is disconnect your own bias and invite yourself to explore your own vision. And I want you to constantly stay in this loop of reconnecting to what it is you want. And some short ways that we do that are writing ourselves letters, hearing our vision talked to us in our own voice, and really using this document, this 10-question document I guide my clients to lean into and to revisit to be sure that their North Star, their guiding principle, and the whole purpose of their lives is clear and compelling. And here's the thing, I also want to give you another permission slip, free pass here. You get to do you, boo. You need to really listen to what you want. And I have this debate, quite heated often, with my bestie who's like, people don't know what they want. And I'm like, yes, they do. And I will die on that cross. She's tried to convince me for 50 years I'm wrong, still not buying it. And here's why. You've known since you were little what you wanted. God gifted you a vision. You can see it. It was not a conference call. It was yours. And just imagine for a moment, if you pursued what you wanted, maybe that is you fulfilling the purpose you're here on the planet to be. Because I think that's the goal. I actually think that's what life is really about. And so I want to invite you, dream again. And dream bigger. Because as big as you can dream, God dreams bigger for you. People around you dream bigger for you. And you don't even know in the tip of your finger your potential. It's so much bigger than you. And you're a miracle in and of itself. So step up to being able and willing to do miraculous things. Second piece of the puzzle is once you have this vision and you're tapping into the lived experience of it, I want you to start with one action. a daily habit. And think specifically about a daily habit that moves the needle. It takes you one step closer to the being, to the having, to the experience of that lived experience you casted in your mind. I think the simplest way to make this digestible is to follow the principle of get off zero. Sometimes the vision's so big it scares us. We can't think about all the mini steps between here and this utopia, here and this unicorn lived awesome, audacious goal. You don't have to. What you need to do is consistently choose to get off zero. And what I think is important is to make this non-negotiable. When I first started building the business, I couldn't have even imagined where we'd be in year 5. I never dreamt so big, truthfully. I thought, who would even pay us? It was so weird when people kept saying, could you guide me to helping me find clients? I'm like, well, how come you don't know how to do that? And they're like, well, I just don't. I don't have your lived experience, Christine. I'll pay you to help me. And I was like, okay, weird. And eventually I had the courage to say yes. But when I started my first business, I built it 1 hour a day. And that 1 hour of effort was focused on non-negotiable income producing activities. It was making the calls. It was building the relationships. It was offering and inviting people to purchase. And it's still as simple as that today. This has to be something that you schedule, because what you schedule gets done. Your schedule reflects your priorities. If your commitment to living your dreams is not in the calendar, you are living somebody else's lives. And I get there's times in your lives when your priorities are impacted by others around you. That could be a boss, it could be your children, it could be your family commitments, it could be your faith, it could be your community, it could be a million things. But I want you to audit right now, and this could be a little uncomfortable. So take a deep breath, take it with me, breathe in, breathe out. Are you a priority on your calendar? And I will be honest, because I just asked you to be honest, that when I look at my calendar, my business is a huge priority. When I'm available, very clearly marked out. How many clients we serve, very clearly mapped out. But what has not been a priority is my own health. And I saw somebody else's calendar recently, and it brought this gap to my attention, because my husband has been nagging me for a while that said, you should take lunch. Not at your desk, like you're not an employee in corporate. You should take lunch. You should move your body midday. I'm thinking that would be a great way to improve your health, which you say is a priority, but it's not scheduled. And so I made the commitment to schedule midday breaks. I scheduled my own priority of myself in my calendar. And I want you to do this the same. Because if your vision is not a priority, it won't move the needle. It makes consistency a figment of fantasy and never going to happen. But if you say it's compelling, this vision, it's non-negotiable, and I'll stack my habits to move the needle, it's never a question of if it will happen. It only becomes a question of when. And we don't control the when. We can influence it, however. So the third thing I want you to do is also to recognize that that journey you're taking to that lived utopia, to that grand, compelling life you want that makes showing up for yourself non-negotiable, is that you have to gamify this. And what I like is reminders, milestones, and rewards. I teach my clients this. It's a fundamental part of life in our client work. We set reminders. So I just said I scheduled my lunch hours. We have reminders on our phone, which is make the phone calls, report into our numbers, do the things that move the needle. And there are great apps in the world that will help you do this today. And there's also old school approaches too. But I don't care how you do it. Don't make the how the reason you don't, because how honestly will kill more dreams. Ask and find a system that works for you, but commit to doing the system. And when you're in that process, I think there's 4 things to do. First off, do it. Second thing, reflect. I want you to third, learn from the lived experience. And I want you to reward yourself. And I want you to reward yourself immediately. So one of the exercises, again, I take all of my clients through is building a rewards list. you might want to do this as homework here to this episode, but I asked them to write down 50 things. Usually we change this up pretty frequently, but I want you to do 50 things that you'll do as a reward. And then I'm asking every week, where are you making progress in following through on your commitment, i.e., where are you consistent? What are you rewarding yourself with? And I want to see a picture of it. So the coolest bit of being a business mentor with clients all over the world, all different ages, all different cultures, is I get all kinds of really fun photos of here's us winning. Here's us enjoying a reward. And if you follow me on social media, on all channels, it's ChristineCampbellRapin.com is my web. You'll find all the channel links on it. But just find me at Christine Campbell. What you will see is that I always celebrate new clients with a glass of champagne. It's my immediate reward. I do 3 things the moment a client contract comes into my inbox. And that's when a client is signed, guys, not just when you get a verbal yes. But when a client contract is signed, we immediately write it up on our board. We immediately move somebody from an open offer to a won project. And I dance around my office. I'm on the other side of the desk than the one you see here. And then I text a message to my husband. Champagne needs to be chilled. And I, that day, take a picture and post on social media the reward for a new beginning. And I want you to think about your rewards as personal. They can be everything from small things like a dance around your office to big things like the trip of a lifetime. Again, I'm going to say the same thing I said earlier, boo, you do you. But I want you to think about reminders, milestones, progress. Way more than perfection is important here, and the rewards for it. Because when you can approach a really big vision that moves you, and you support it with daily habits and markers of progress, you create yourself a winning formula. And I want more people to be winning with their lives. I mean, ultimately, I'm playing in the lane of business, yes. But what matters most to me is that you have a life that feels like oxygen. And if your vision, as I said, is borrowed or it's weak, it won't hold water. But when it's the other end of the spectrum, when it's vivid and uniquely yours, it feels compelling. It's like oxygen and you're required to take your next breath. It means that you will always show up for yourself, even in the hard moments and in the hard days. And I think if you are like any other human on the planet, you shouldn't be doing this solo, which is why hiring a mentor, and for me, I pay for that. And I invite my clients, and I invite you to consider hiring me as your mentor. Makes all the difference in the world, because we have to applaud ourselves. Consistency erodes doubt. And the longer that you simply say, it's a habit I can't win, the more it will hold you back. So let me ask you this final question in today's episode. What habit can you take today that moves you to the thing you most want in life? And what if today you actually showed up for yourself and made that step? If you take that gauntlet, which I've just thrown at you, I want you to message me, any social media platform, or again, my email, hello@ChristineCampbellRapin.com. I want you to tell me. I'll bear witness for you, and I will celebrate you. Consistency is a choice. And you have the power, capability to follow through on the things that matter to you. So let's go. It's go time. That's a wrap on another amazing episode of Amplify Your Marketing Message with me, your host, Christine Campbell Rapin. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss another great episode. And be sure to visit ChristineCampbellRapin.com/podcast to get a free resource on how to master your marketing message. We'll see you all